Have you ever walked into a room of absolute silence, a sanctuary where the world has been shut out, expecting to find peace? You lock the door. You turn off the phone. You eliminate every source of external vibration. You sit in the stillness, waiting for relief, only to make a terrifying discovery. You realize that while the room is quiet, you are deafeningly loud. The silence outside has only served to amplify the screaming inside. It is a shock to the system to realize that the chaos was never out there. It was carried in here, within the very architecture of your own consciousness. Inside the fortress of your skull, there is no silence. There is a storm. Thoughts are not just drifting. They are racing like wild horses panic, stricken by fire. They careen from the wreckage of yesterday to the potential catastrophes of tomorrow. You find yourself suddenly paralyzed by a remark someone made 3 years ago. A sentence that meant nothing to them, but has become a monument of shame in your memory. You obsess over a future event that has a statistical probability of 0, yet you mourn it as if it has already destroyed you. Consider the nightly ritual of the modern human. You lie in bed, your body heavy with the fatigue of labor, your muscles pleading for rest. Your eyes are closed, darkness surrounds you, and yet the projector in your mind flicks on. It begins to play the greatest hits of regret. You replay a conversation from 6 hours ago, dissecting your own tone, rewriting the script, screaming internally, "I should have said it differently." You become an actor in a play that has already closed, trying to change the ending for an audience that went home hours ago. Then the genre shifts. You remember an awkward moment from high school, a stumble, a stutter, a failure. You feel the heat rise in your cheeks in the darkness of your bedroom. The logical part of you knows that no one else on earth remembers this. Everyone else is too busy starring in their own mental tragedies. But to you, the memory is fresh, sharp, and humiliating. It is a ghost that refuses to be exorcised. Then comes the anxiety for the future. You begin to rehearse for a meeting next week. You draft speeches. You calculate defenses against accusations that haven't been made. You simulate failure in high definition, imagining every possible way things could go wrong. Feeling the cortisol pump through your veins as if the disaster is happening right now. You are suffering from events that do not exist. In these moments of overwhelming internal noise, we often make a desperate move. We pick up the phone. We don't do this because we need information. We don't do this because we care about the lives of others. We do it because we are terrified of being alone with the roommate in our head. We seek distraction as an anesthetic. We treat silence like a disease that must be cured with blue light and scrolling feeds. You did not choose this affliction. You did not send out an invitation for these intrusive thoughts. You did not ask for the anxiety, the regret, or the fear. And yet, they arrive with the punctuality of the tide. They crash over you, one after another, waves of mental debris that never seem to recede. It feels less like thinking and more like being under siege. There is a profound irony in the human condition. We spend the first 2 decades of our lives in rigorous training. We spend thousands of hours learning how to decode language, how to manipulate numbers, how to operate heavy machinery, and how to navigate complex economic systems. We master the external world. We can build skyscrapers and split atoms. But in all that time, not a single hour is dedicated to the most fundamental skill of existence, how to handle the one thing you can never escape. No one teaches us how to drive the vehicle of our own mind. We are given a supercomputer with no manual, and we are surprised when it begins to overheat. Over 2.5 millennia ago, a man named Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, looked directly into this abyss. He did not have a smartphone, he did not have the internet, but he had the exact same human hardware that you have. He faced the same restless, chaotic, screaming mind. And what he discovered in his deep investigation is not just relevant today. It is the only lifeline we have left. There is a powerful image that has survived through centuries of Buddhist transmission because it is so devastatingly accurate. It is simple, almost comical, but it exposes the mechanism of our suffering. In the Assutavā Sutta, the Buddha offered a comparison that strips away our intellectual vanity. He said the untrained mind is like a monkey swinging through the deep forest. Visualize this creature. It grabs a branch, clings to it for a moment, and then, driven by a restless impulse, it lets go to grab another. It never stops. It never rests. It is in a state of perpetual motion, driven by fear and hunger. The Buddha said that what we call mind, or intellect, or consciousness operates exactly this way. It arises as one thing and ceases as another in a constant, frantic flux. This metaphor points to a fundamental truth about reality that we often ignore. Consciousness does not stay still. It is not a solid block. It is a stream of events. It arises and passes, moment to moment, like that monkey desperate for the next branch. If the monkey stops, it falls. So it keeps grabbing, keeps moving, terrified of the space between the branches. Validate this with your own experience. Sit down to relax. Try to hold your attention on one thing. Within seconds, the monkey has jumped. You are no longer in the room. You are in a conversation from last week. Then, snap. You are grabbing the branch of tomorrow's meeting. Then, snap. You are grabbing the branch of a vague existential dread. You did not choose to jump. The monkey jumped for you. It just happened. You are the passenger in a vehicle driven by a maniac. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha described this chaotic nature with clinical precision. He used 4 specific words: quivering, wavering, hard to guard, hard to hold in check. Let those words sink in. Quivering, like a muscle under too much tension. Wavering, unable to commit, unable to stand firm. It is a wild thing, feral and frightened. But the Buddha did not leave us in this state of diagnosis. He offered the cure. He said the sage makes it straight like a fletcher, the shaft of an arrow. This is a masterful image. A fletcher is a craftsman who makes arrows. To make an arrow fly true, the wood must be heated, bent, pressed, and shaved. It requires heat and pressure. It requires skill. The wise person does not pray for the mind to be quiet. The wise person engineers the mind to be straight. This is a statement of immense hope. It means the chaos is not terminal. This is the first liberation, recognizing that a busy mind is not a personal failure. It is not a sign that you are broken or stupid or spiritually incapable. It is simply the natural state of a biological machine that hasn't been calibrated. The Buddha wasn't judging you. He was describing the machinery. And if it is a machine, it can be retuned. However, to retune it, we must understand the fuel that keeps it running. Why does the mind run? It is not random. It is not a glitch. There is a pattern to the madness. In his very first teaching after attaining enlightenment, the Dhammapada Sutta, the Buddha laid out the 4 noble truths. In the second truth, he identified the engine of suffering. He called it to H. We translate ta H as craving or thirst, but these English words are too polite. Ta A is a visceral, burning hunger. It is a fever. Why does this fever make the mind so restless? Look at your insomnia. When you cannot sleep, the mind is hunting. It scans the day for errors. It asks, did I do enough? Am I safe? Do they respect me? This is the mind craving security. It is the ego trying to build a fortress of certainty in an uncertain world. It wants to become something successful, admired, untouchable. Or consider the moments when boredom strikes. You feel a slight discomfort, a quiet emptiness. Immediately, you recoil. You reach for the phone. You open the fridge. You turn on the television. This is the mind craving non-existence. It wants to escape the present moment. It wants to annihilate the feeling of being here now. It is running away from reality. And then there is the loop of pleasure. The mind remembers a hit of dopamine, a taste, a touch, a victory. It fantasizes about repeating it. It plans the next vacation while you are on vacation. It buys the next item while you are unwrapping the current one. It is a hunger that can never be filled because the nature of the hunger is to want more, not to have. The Buddha saw 3 specific drives behind every restless thought you have ever had: the craving for sensory pleasure, the craving to become someone, and the craving to get rid of something. These are the 3 tyrants ruling your mental landscape. The mind isn't broken, it is obeying the orders of these tyrants. It is constantly searching, constantly wanting, constantly running toward a mirage or running away from a shadow. So when your mind is racing, understand this: it is not because your schedule is too busy. It is not because the world is complicated. It is because, deep down, there is a craving that refuses to settle. It is looking for the next branch to hold on to, hoping that this branch will finally hold the weight of your soul. And here lies the tragedy of the human experience: satisfaction never arrives. Not permanently. The nature of craving is that it is a bottomless pit. The moment you get what you want, the satisfaction evaporates and the craving shifts to a new object. The horizon always moves away from you. The cycle is endless. Samsara is not a place, it is this cycle of endless, dissatisfied running. We must see this mechanism. We must look at it without flinching. We must not judge it, for judgment is just another form of noise. We must simply see it, because seeing is the beginning of disassembling. Consider the absurdity of your own behavior. Intellectually, that worrying solves nothing. It has zero utility. Yet, you worry with religious devotion. You know that replaying the argument won't change the transcript of the past. Yet, you hit replay 1,000 times. You know that doom scrolling at midnight destroys your sleep hygiene. Yet, your thumb keeps moving. Why? It is not because you are weak. It is not because you lack discipline. It is because of a subtle trap that the Buddha identified, a trap called Upadana. This translates as clinging or grasping, but literally, it means fuel. It is the act of taking a thought and turning it into identity. The problem is not that thoughts arise. The brain secretes thoughts like the liver secretes bile. It is a biological function. The problem is what you do after the thought appears. A thought whispers, "I am not good enough." If you left it alone, it would dissolve like smoke. But you don't leave it alone. You grab it. You hug it to your chest. You say, "Yes is me. This is the truth." In that fraction of a second, you transform a fleeting electrical impulse into a heavy, solid reality. You believe it. You become it. The thought is no longer an event, it is the commander. Once you believe the thought, the body follows. The stomach tightens. The heart races. You release stress hormones. This physical reaction then convinces your mind that the threat is real, which generates more thoughts. This is the feedback loop of hell. A thought appears, I will fail. You grasp it. You feel heavy. You stop trying. You fail. The mind says, see, I told you. The trap tightens. The Buddha explained that it is this clinging, this sticky quality of the mind, that binds us to suffering. It is not the experience that hurts it, it is our refusal to let the experience flow. We take a thought about the future, and we build a simulator. We live in that simulator. We suffer the tragedies of that simulator. We are exhausted not by the world, but by the weight of the imaginary worlds we carry. We are grasping at smoke and wondering why our hands are empty. But here is the secret that changes the game. A thought is not a fact. A thought is a suggestion. It is a proposition. It arises. It stays for a moment. It passes. You are under no obligation to entertain it. You do not have to invite it in for tea. You do not have to believe it. You do not have to become it. The moment you realize, not just intellectually, in your gut, that you are not your thoughts, but the observer of your thoughts, the prison door unlocks. You realize you have a choice. You cannot stop the rain from falling, but you can choose whether to drown in it. That choice is the birth of freedom. But how? How do we make this choice in the heat of the moment? This is where philosophy ends and training begins. This is the practice. Most people misunderstand meditation completely. They think it is a war against thinking. They imagine a Zen master has a blank mind, a void of nothingness. So they sit down, close their eyes, and try to install a firewall in their brain. They try to force silence. They clench their jaw. They treat every thought like an intruder that must be shot on sight. And when the thoughts inevitably come, they get angry. I can't meditate, they say. My mind is too busy. They feel like failures. But this approach is violence, not meditation. You cannot smooth the water by beating it with a flat iron. While the Buddha did offer techniques for suppressing dangerous thoughts in extreme cases, like a strong man pinning down a weaker man, he listed this as the absolute last resort. It was the emergency brake, not the steering wheel. The foundation of his teaching was far more intelligent, far more subtle. It was called Satipatthana, the establishing of mindfulness. The instruction is not to fight the mind. It is to watch the mind. It is to contemplate the mind in the mind. To be ardent, clearly comprehending, and mindful. It means you sit on the bank of the river and watch the water flow. You do not dive in. You do not try to stop the river. You simply acknowledge it. This is a log. This is a leaf. This is a rapid. When you truly see a thought as an object, oh, look, there is a worrying thought, it loses its hypnotic power. A thought only controls you when you are merged with it. When you step back to look at it, you break the identification. The spell is broken. The vampire dies when exposed to the light of awareness. To develop this superpower, the Buddha gave us a specific anchor, Nenpi mindfulness of breathing. He said this practice is of great fruit and great benefit. The instructions are deceptively simple. Sit comfortably. Keep your back straight. Bring your attention to the sensation of the breath entering and leaving the body. Here is the crucial part. When the mind wanders, and it will wander, do not judge yourself. Do not get angry. Simply notice that it has wandered. That moment of noticing, That is the meditation. That is the bicep curl for your brain. Every time you catch your mind drifting and gently, without violence, bring it back to the breath. You are rewiring your nervous system. You are strengthening the muscle of awareness. You are not failing when you drift. You are succeeding when you return. If you have been listening to this, you might feel a sudden heaviness in your chest, a sense of grief. You might realize that you have lost years of your life to the tyranny of the unobserved mind. You have fought battles that never existed. You have hurt yourself with weapons of your own making. If you feel this regret, listen closely. It is not your fault. You were thrown into a complex world with no guidance. We taught you algebra, but we never taught you awareness. We taught you history, but we never taught you presence. You did the best you could with the tools you had. You suffered because you didn't know there was another way. But now the ignorance is ending. You are waking up. You are beginning to see the machinery. And that seeing is the beginning of everything. In the first verse of the Dhammapada, the Buddha declared mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. Your reality is not shaped by your bank account, your job, or your relationships. It is shaped by the lens through which you view them. If the lens is cracked, the world looks broken. If the lens is clear, the world reveals its beauty. This is not a burden. This is the ultimate empowerment. You do not need to wait for the economy to improve to find peace. You do not need an apology from the past to find freedom. The key is in your hand. It has always been in your hand. But be warned, this is not a magic pill. It is a path. It requires patience. It requires what the Buddha called art, or a courageous energy. You will fall. The monkey will grab the branch again and again. But the goal is not perfection. The goal is return. So here is the practice. It is simple, but it is not easy. When you get lost, come back. When you forget, remember. When you fall into the trance of thinking, wake up. Your busy mind is not your enemy. It is just a scared child, a frantic monkey, a machine running on old code. You do not need to go to a mountaintop. You do not need to become a monk. You just need to sit down, right here, right now. Feel the air enter your lungs. Watch the thoughts rise like clouds. Let them float by. Do not grab them. That space, that tiny gap between the thought and your reaction, is where your life lives. That is where freedom begins. The path is open. The silence is waiting underneath the noise. Will you take the first step?